Alrighty, so in the last video we introduced slope, what it looks like, what it means, and I'll throw up the formula because we're now actually going to be calculating the slope between two coordinates. Okay, so I'll do two of these, then I'm going to ask you to do two of them, alright? So I'll do A. So something that might be helpful is to actually label what these coordinates are to match it to our formula. So the first coordinate, negative 3, 2, I'm going to call that x sub 1, y sub 1, or x1, y1. And 5, 5, I'm going to call that x2, y2. Then, to figure out what my slope is, I'm going to take y2, which is 5. I'm going to subtract y1, which is 2. And that's going to divide x2, which is 5, minus x sub 1, which is negative 3. Okay? Couple things to notice. I started with the second coordinate, so both the top and the bottom had to start with my second coordinate. All right? So, now to simplify it, I'm going to notice on the denominator, I'm taking 5 minus negative 3. So that's going to be 5 plus 3. So my slope here is going to be 5 minus 2, which is 3, over 5 plus 3, which is 8. There's nothing to simplify there. So my slope between these two coordinates is 3 over 8. Alrighty. I will also do C. I'll do letter C for you guys. Alright, so again, helpful to maybe list what these coordinates are. Alright, so my slope is going to be x sub 2, which is negative 1, minus y sub 1. So y2 minus y1, so I got negative 1 minus negative 1 over, and because I started with the second coordinate, I need to use the x coordinate of that second coordinate. So 2 minus negative 3. So it's very important to make sure you don't get tripped up on your negatives here. So in both cases, I have minus a negative, so that's going to become plus a positive. So on the top, I got negative 1 plus 1, which is going to give me 0. And on the bottom, I have 2 plus 3, which is going to give me 5. Well, 0 divided by 5 is just going to give me 0. So my slope is 0, which means this is going to look like a horizontal line, if you remember from the last video. Okay, so go ahead and try out B and D. So there are the worked out examples for B and D. Remember, for B, I would recommend figure out what those ordered pairs are first before you use the formula. Just be careful with your subtracting and negatives, all that stuff, adding, subtracting. That's all this is. Make sure you're plugging in correctly. If you have any questions, make sure you ask me. You got to make sure you ask me. Okay, so let's use our slope formula again. So I'm going to write it at the top. That way we have it. These types of problems trip up students a lot. So in here, you're going to not necessarily solve for your slope. You're not going to calculate your slope because you already know your slope. Instead, you need to use that slope to work backwards. So what's that going to look like? Find the value of the variable so that the line that passes through these points has the given slope. So I'm just going to use my slope formula. That's why I stated it at the very top of this slide, and plug in what I know and solve for what I don't know. So I'm going to label these coordinates x1, y1, and x2, y2. Okay, so when I want to set this up, when I want to solve this, I've got my slope equals, m equals, so I've got 1/3 equals my second y value, which is being played by r, minus my first y value, which is 4, over the second x coordinate, which is negative 5, minus the first x coordinate, which is 1. So there, all I'm doing is I'm taking what's given to me in the problem and I'm plugging it into the slope formula. So now what I need to do is I need to simplify. And what can I simplify? I can simplify the denominator. Negative 5 minus 1, that's negative 6. And then I just need to remember back from unit 2, how do I solve something that looks like this? Okay, well, I have a ratio equal to a ratio, a fraction equal to a fraction, and whenever you see a proportion, you want to cross multiply this. So if I cross multiply, I'm going to get negative 6 equals 3 times the quantity r minus 4. Oops, r minus 4. And now all I need to do is solve this equation. So I'm going to distribute the 3. So I'm going to get 3r minus 12. I'm going to add 12 to both sides. So I get 6 equals 3r. Divide both sides by 3. I'm going to get r equals 2. Okay? So the only thing that's new there is we're going to take the given information, we're going to plug it into our slope formula, and then we're going to do a cross multiply and solve the equation. We're going to solve the new proportion that we have. Okay? I'm taking the equation, plugging in the information, solving the proportion. Try that out in letter B. Okay, so there's the worked out for B. Use that slope formula, plug in what you know, solve for what you don't know. And the way you're going to solve is by doing a cross multiplication. Okay, and you can always plug in your answers back in and double check to make sure that you actually get out that given slope. So actually plug them back in to your original or to your slope formula, simplify it, and if your m's don't match, if your slopes don't match, you did something wrong. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. In the next video, we'll look at a couple application problems involving slope.